श्रीशैलेशदयापात्रं धीभक्त्यादिगुणार्णवम् यतीन्द्रप्रवणं वन्दे रम्यजामातरं मुनिं लक्ष्मीनाथसमारम्भां नाथयामुनमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम् यो नित्यमच्युतपदाम्बुजयुग्मरुग्मा व्यामोहतस्तदितराणि तृणाय मेने अस्मद्गुरोर्भगवतोऽस्य दयैकसिन्धोः रामानुजस्य चरणौ शरणं प्रपद्ये माता पिता युवतयस्तनया विभूतिः सर्वं यदेव नियमेन मदन्वयानाम् आद्यस्य न कुलपतेर्वकुलाभिरामम् श्रीमत्तदङ्घ्रियुगलं प्रणमामि मूर्ध्ना भूतं शरश्च महताह्वयभट्टनाथ श्रीभक्तिसारकुलशेखरयोगिवाहान् भक्ताङ्घ्रिरेणुपरकालयतीन्द्रमिश्रान् श्रीमत्पराङ्कुशमुनिं प्रणतोऽस्मि नित्यम् लोकगुरुं गुरुभिः सह पूर्वैः पूरकुलोत्तमदासमुदारम् श्रीनगपत्यभिरामवरेशौ दीप्रशयानगुरुञ्च भजेऽहम् लोकाचार्याय गुरवे कृष्णपादस्य सूनवे संसारभोगिसन्दष्ट जीवजीवातवे नमः। लोकाचार्यकृपापात्रं कौण्डिन्यकुलभूषणं समस्तात्मगुणावासं वन्दे कूरकुलोत्तमम्। नमः श्रीशैलनाथाय कुन्तीनकरजन्मने प्रसादलब्धपरमप्राप्य कैङ्कर्यशालिने लोकाचार्यपदाम्भोज राजहंसायितान्तरम् ज्ञानवैराग्यजलधिं वन्दे सौम्यवरं गुरुं श्रीजिह्वावधीशदासम् अमलम् अशेषशास्त्रविधं सुन्दरवरगुरु करुणाकन्दलित ज्ञानमन्दिरं कलये पुरुषकारवैभवञ्च साधनस्य गौरवं तदधिकारिकृत्यम् अस्य सद्गुरूपसेवनं हरिदयामहैतुकीं गुरोरुपायतां च यो वचनभूषणे वदज्जगद्गुरुं तमाश्रये। साङ्गकिल द्रविडसंस्कृतरूपवेदसारार्थ संग्रह महारसवाक्यजातं सर्वज्ञलोकगुरुनिर्मितम् आर्यभोग्यं वन्दे सदा वचनभूषणदिव्यशास्त्रम् अकण्ठोत्कण्ठवैकुण्ठप्रियाणां कण्ठभूषणां गुरुणा जगतामुक्तं व्याप्तं வசனபூஷணம் பேரு தருவிக்கும் அவள் தன் பெருமை ஆறு பெறுவான் முறை அவன் கூறு குருவைப் பனுவல் கொள்வதிலையாகிய குளிர்ந்தவருள் தான் மாறில் புகழ் நற்குருவின் வன்மையோடெல்லாம் வசனபூடணமதில் தேரிட நமக்கருள் முடும்ப இரவன் கழல்கள் சேரன் மனனே திருமாமகள் தன் சீரருளேத்தமும் திருமால் திருவடி சேர்வழி நன்மையும் அவ்வழியொழிந்தனவனைத்தின் புன்மையும் மெய்வழி ஊன்னியமிக்கோர் பெருமையும் ஆரணம் வல்லவர் அமரு நன்னெறியையும் நாரணன் தாழ் தரு நற்குரு நீதியும் சோதிவானருள் தூயமா குருவின் பாதமாமலர் பணிபவர் தன்மையும் தீதில் வானவர் தேவன் உயிர்களை ஏது விண்ணி எடுக்கும் படியையும் மன்னிய இன்பமும் ஆகதியும் குரு என்ன நிலை பெறும் இன்பொருள் தன்னையும் அசவிலா வேதம் அதனுள் அனைத்தையும் வசனபூடணம் வழியால் அருளியா மறையவர் சிகாமணி வண்டுகள் முடும்பை இறையவனெங்கோன் ஏர் உலகாரியன் தேன்மலர்ச்சேவடி சிந்த செய்பவர் மாநிலத்தின்பம் எய்தி வாழ்பவரே லோகாச்சார்ய கிருதே லோகஹிதே வசனபூஷணே தத்வார்த்ததர்ஷினோ லோகே तन्निष्ठाश्च सुदुर्लभाः जगताचार्यरचिते श्रीमद्वचनभूषणे तत्त्वज्ञानञ्च तन्निष्ठां देहि नाथयतीन्द्र मे.
ஆழ்வார் திருவடிகளே சரணம், எம்பெருமானார் திருவடிகளே சரணம், பிள்ளை லோகாச்சாரியர் திருவடிகளே சரணம், ஜீயர் திருவடிகளே சரணம். Today we will see the meanings of the commentary that Manavala Mamuni has written for Sri Vachanabhushanam, specifically the part that is the introduction called the Avatarikai. This will take a couple of days. So today is part 1 of the meanings that Manavala Mamunigal has given in the introduction or the Avatarikai. And tomorrow we will enjoy part 2. The holy Tirumantra that we all are familiar with teaches us about 3 important things. It is called Akaratraya. It is Ananyarha Seshatvam, Ananya Sharanatvam and Ananya Bhogyatvam. Ananyarha Seshatvam is not being the servant of anybody other than Lord Sriman Narayana and ultimately our Acharya. Ananya Sharanatvam is not surrendering to anybody other than Lord Sriman Narayana. And Ananya Bhogyatvam is not considering anything other than Lord Sriman Narayana, enjoying his great qualities and doing Kainkarya service to him and his devotees and Acharyas, not considering anything other than that to be our object of enjoyment. These 3 qualities, these 3 concepts are common to all the souls. When I say all the souls, it includes not just souls that are present in different types of human beings, but also souls that are present in, for instance, a tree, or a soul that is present in an animal, and so on. Because the nature of the soul is different than the body that it inhabits at a given point in time. And these 3 qualities are for the soul, and hence it is common for all the souls. For all the souls, there is a divine right. And that right is to be like the ever-present beings in Sri Vaikunta, like Ananta, Garuda, Vishwaksena, called Nityasuris. Similar to them, the souls have a right to have unlimited knowledge that is not contracted by any means. Using that unlimited knowledge, the ability to have constant enjoyment of Lord Sriman Narayana and his great qualities, and doing service to him, and getting the limitless ananda that one gets from doing that. That right every soul has, and it is common to all the souls. The yogyata or the qualification is there for every soul. However, we see that not all souls are in Sri Vaikuntham, and of course souls are present in this cycle of samsara, birth and death, and they are suffering a lot. Why is that? Manavala Mamunigal explains that in the next section of this introduction. Due to the ajnana, imperfect knowledge or the wrong knowledge that the soul obtains because of its association with material things, in its innumerable births and deaths, in the innumerable births that the soul has taken, because of that ajnana and the karma associated with it, the souls are born in innumerable life forms over the years. The soul that is present in me, for instance, who knows what it was inhabiting in the previous birth? Maybe it was in some other life form and the birth before, and so on. So through millions of cycles of birth and death, the soul inhabits different bodies. It assumes different lives. And in each one of those, the souls do a few incorrect perceptions. They have some mistakes. First one is called Dehatma Vimanam. The soul thinks that the body is itself. The body is the soul. That the body and the soul are the same. That is Dehatma Vimanam. Thinking of the body as the Atma. That we can see today, where we associate with the name that is given to us for this body, and we associate ourselves with the family that we are born in, and we associate ourselves with the material relationships that we have around us. But in reality, the real soul, is different from this specific body that we identify. Similarly, there is another misconception that the souls undergo, Anyaseshatvam, where they become servants of things other than Lord Sriman Narayana, people and things other than Sriman Narayana. And the souls also have another misconception in terms of Swatantriyam, or independence. The soul thinks that it is independent to pursue and follow whatever goal that it wants. This happens because of the association of the body as the soul in every birth. And this causes the accumulation of more and more avidya, more and more ajnana. It is almost as if the souls have decided to undergo the vow of catching something, whatever it may be, that takes it away from its natural state and its natural qualities that we described in the beginning of this lecture. Because of this, the souls develop they become averse to spirituality, they become averse to Lord Sriman Narayana, and they are born in this cycle, and the cycle continues, and in every birth the soul undergoes a lot of sorrow and difficulty that we cannot describe. Now, in this cycle of samsara, of the billions and billions of uncountable souls, for a very few of those souls, for very few of them, due to the kataksha of Lord, due to the grace of Lord Sriman Narayana, the technical word is Jaya Mana Kala Kataksham, Bhagavat Kataksham. These souls, a small number of souls, may develop an interest in releasing themselves from this cycle of samsara, in attaining moksha. Basically, they want to be free from this cycle of birth and death, along with all the difficulties and sorrows that it brings in. So only for a very rare set of people, due to the grace of Lord Sriman Narayana, this desire for moksha, desire for release from this cycle of birth and death, is created. Even for those souls, it is necessary for them to understand three concepts: Tattva, Hita and Purushartha. Tattva means knowing key concepts as they are, knowing the nature of the Supreme Being, knowing the nature of the soul, knowing the nature of the Prakriti, or the things that are around us. Like that, a few key concepts has to be understood as they are without any mistakes. Purushartha has to be understood. What is to be aimed for? What should be the goal that we want to reach? The Purushartha. Of course, the common Purusharthas we know are Dharma, Artha, Kama and Moksha. Some people have as their Purushartha or as their goal to earn a lot of money, for example, right? That's Artha. Some people have the desire, have the goal to enjoy materially everything that they can, right? That is Kama, for instance. So what is the right Purushartha to be aimed for is something that has to be understood. The right Purushartha, of course, has to be release from samsara for people who have the inclination for release from samsara. And then Hita, what are the good things to be done? What are the things to be done in order to attain that goal? Has to be understood clearly and without any mistakes. And how to understand these? All these concepts are present in the Shastras. So one has to understand this only through the understanding of the Shastras, which of course includes all the Vedas, the Vedangas, the Upanishads, the Upabrahmanas, the Itihasas, the Puranas, the three mantras, the sacred mantras of Rahasyatrayam, and of course Alvar's Arulichel, or the Nalayana Divya Prabandham. Now this body of work that we just talked about is massive and enormous, and particularly the Sanskrit forms of the work are very difficult to understand. It is very hard to understand the essence of these things because they seem to be talking about different things and they seem to be talking in different ways. And it is extremely hard for people who are not blessed with divine knowledge to really understand the essence of all these things in order to understand the true tattva, the true hita, and the true purusharthas. Because of this, a great acharyas, starting with Sriman Nadamuni, and of course following the Guru Parampara, Ramanuja, and so on, they gathered the key knowledge, the key essence of the Vedas and all the Shastras. They gathered it because they had that knowledge and they had the practice and Anushtanam to understand, and they had the kripa of their Acharya and Lord Sriman Narayana. And once they gathered that essence of those, even for people with limited knowledge, limited ability, they made it possible for them to understand by explaining these things in simple manners, in a summarized manner to everyone. And some of them also wrote works, like prabandhas or books about these things. Similarly, in the Guru Parampara, Pillai Lokacharya, of course, is part of the Guru Parampara. We say Embrumanar, after Ramanuja, it is Embar, Bhattar, Nanjiyar, Nambillai, Vadakku Tiruvedi Pillai, then Pillai Lokacharya. Pillai Lokacharya, of course, was a great scholar and a great practitioner of this and a great Acharya. He had the access and the great fortune to have been taught all these things by his Acharyas and people elder to him at that point in time. And he mastered these great meanings that came through the Guru Parampara. In order for people who are later to him to understand, in order for them to benefit, Pillai Lokacharya made those great teachings in a grantha form, which is Sri Vachana Bhushanam. In addition to Pillai Lokacharya's desire, there was the command of Lord Varadaraja through a Sishya to make these beautiful teachings into a grantha form. And that is how Sri Vachana Bhushanam was born. Sri Vachana Bhushanam, of course, mean it is an ornament that is made of important sayings. Vachana Bhushanam, an ornament of teachings that were given to us by our Purvacharyas. That is what Sri Vachana Bhushanam is. Now let us briefly see the history of how Sri Vachana Bhushanam came into being. There was a great Sri Vaishnava called Manapparkattu Nambi. Manapparkam is a name of a place. Manapparkattu Nambi means a person who is hailing from that place. He was a great devotee of Lord Varadaraja and he lived in Kanchipuram. One day, Lord Varadaraja appeared in his dreams and then he gave him or taught him a few important concepts that are useful for him to take refuge in and to follow from a spiritual perspective. In addition to teaching some of these concepts, Lord Varadaraja also told him to go and live between the two rivers and that he will teach him more concepts while he lives between the two rivers. In those days, living between two rivers basically means living in Srirangam, because Kaveri is there and Kollidam is there and Srirangam is an island between those two. So Manapparkattu Nambi went to Srirangam. He lived in a place that was not surrounded by a lot of people. This is a place today where Kartazhiyasingar Kovil is there. That used to be forest area in the olden days. He lived near that place in a calm place where not a lot of crowd was there. And he was meditating on the meanings given by Lord Varadaraja, and he went to the temple and he came back every day. One day when he was sitting in the temple, he suddenly saw a group of Sri Vaishnavas come. There was a leader and a bunch of Shishyas who came along with him. And the leader sat down and the Sishyas also sat down. And the leader started teaching the Sri Vaishnavas many important and deep concepts. Manapparkattu Nambi was shocked and surprised, because what the leader was teaching the Sishyas was the same concepts that were given to him in his dream by Lord Varadaraja. So immediately he approached the leader. This leader was Pillai Lokacharya, and he asked him a question in Tamil, Avaro Neer. This basically means, are you him? Are you him? Pillai Lokacharya replied saying, So what? So what if I am him? Immediately, Manapakatha Nambi understood that Pillai Lokacharya was a Amsa or a reincarnation of Lord Varadaraja, and then he told him about the history of Lord Varadaraja appearing in his dreams, giving him some concepts and telling him that to live between the two rivers and that he will teach him even more concepts. And Pillai Lokacharya accepted him as a Shishya, and he continued to teach more concepts to Manapakatha Nambi as Lord Varadaraja had told him in his dreams. After a few days, Manapakatha Nambi had another dream in which Lord Varadaraja appeared and told him to request Pillai Lokacharya to put these teachings into a Grantha form, which he went and explained to Pillai Lokacharya, and he requested him to make a Grantha out of it, basically make a book out of it. And Pillai Lokacharya agreed, and that is how this book, Sri Vachana Bhushanam, was born. This great Grantha, Sri Vachana Bhushanam, was born because of the divine command of Lord Varadaraja himself, and because Pillai Lokacharya also considered as an incarnation of Lord Varadaraja himself. With his kindness, he composed this beautiful necklace, this beautiful ornament that consists of divine teachings that were passed down to him by his acharyas. And that is the book that we will enjoy in the coming months. This is the end of the first part of the Avatarike. Tomorrow, we will continue to see a little bit more detail in terms of what Sri Vachana Bhushanam contains and the different concepts it teaches, which is the second part of the Avatarike. Alvar Tiruvadigalai Sharanam, Emperumanar Tiruvadigalai Sharanam, Pillai Lokacharya Tiruvadigalai Sharanam, Jiyar Tiruvadigalai Sharanam. Alvar Tiruvadigalai Sharanam, Emperumanar Tiruvadigalai Sharanam, Pillai Lokacharya Tiruvadigalai Sharanam, Jiyar Tiruvadigalai Sharanam. Today, we will look into the second half of the Avatarike, or the introduction to Sri Vachana Bhushanam of the commentary of Manavala Mamayana. In today's portion, we will see the different parts of Sri Vachana Bhushanam and the key concepts that are taught in Sri Vachana Bhushanam. There are two slightly different ways in which the contents of the Sri Vachana Bhushanam are told to us, and we will see both of those ways. First, let us see the first method in which Sri Vachana Bhushanam is considered to contain 6 portions teaching us 6 different concepts or 6 different meanings. The first few sutras of Sri Vachana Bhushanam, the first 4 sutras or so, starting with Vedartham Arudhi Iduvadu, the first sutra, is a preface. These set of sutras basically talk about the pramanas, the knowledge sources from which all the meanings are being told to us. They are the preface. They build us confidence that the meanings told in Sri Vachana Bhushanam basically are the meanings that are present in the body of the Vedas. That is what the first few sutras are. After this, there is a very important section which talks about Purushakara Vaibhavam. Purushakara means mediation. Lakshmi mediates between Lord Sriman Narayana and the souls. She reminds Lord Sriman Narayana of his compassion, his kindness, and the fact that everything belongs to him, so that he can direct his mercy towards us. She also teaches us to surrender to Lord Sriman Narayana. This way, she brings both Lord Sriman Narayana and the souls together. And this section talks about the Vaibhava, the greatness of Mahalakshmi, using examples from the Itihasas. While saying that, this section also talks about the Upaya, the means to achieve the ultimate goal, which is surrender particularly which is Lord Sriman Narayana himself, surrendering to Lord Sriman Narayana and considering himself as the Upaya. So this is the first section after the preface. Talks about Purushakara Vaibhavam as well as the fact, the greatness of Lord Sriman Narayana himself as the Siddhopaya. The next section is called Upaya Prakaranam. This goes in detail. It describes the surrender or Sharanagati or Prapatti in detail. It talks about the fact that there are no restrictions in terms of where to do Sharanagati, which place to do Sharanagati, what time to do Sharanagati, and so on. Talks about the fact that to do Sharanagati, to surrender to somebody, there is only one thing that we should consider, which is to whom we are surrendering to. That is Lord Sriman Narayana only. It talks about other things, the difficulties that occurs when one considers their surrender to be the means and not Lord Sriman Narayana as the means. In much more detail, it talks about that. That is the second section, and hence it is called the Upaya Prakaranam, the section that describes the Upaya or Prapatti in detail. The section after that talks about Adhikarya Nishta. It talks about the habits and practices of somebody who considers Lord Sriman Narayana himself as the means and who has surrendered. It talks about the things that such a person should renounce, the things that such a person should desire to have and to develop, and so on. So this is the Adhikari Nishta. So far we have seen three sections. Purushakara Vaibhavam, then we talked about the Upaya Prakaranam, and then Adhikari Nishta Prakaranam. The next section talks about the qualities of Acharyas and Sishyas, particularly the qualities of a great Acharya. How should a great Sishya be? What are the Lakshanas? What are the qualifications and the practices of a Sishya? How should a Sishya behave towards an Acharya? How a Sishya should have a sense of gratitude, a deep gratitude towards the Acharya who has changed the mind of the Sishya to go into spirituality and the right path. So that is the next section. The fifth section in this sequence is Bhagavan Nirhetuka Kripa Prabhavam. Here it goes in detail about the causeless mercy that Lord Sriman Narayana has towards us. This section or this Prakaranam talks about the fact that Lord Sriman Narayana's mercy does not depend upon any single thing we do. It is not in return for something that we do, but His mercy is causeless, nirhetuka, without any cause. He has mercy towards everyone. And this is told because people may worry looking at their own sins. We all have done a lot of sins throughout our births. So we look at it and then it is natural for us to wonder whether the Lord will save us. And this Prakarana gives us confidence that His Kripa does not depend on anything that we do, but it is causeless. That's the fifth Prakarana. And the last Prakarana is called the Charama Parvanishta, which is a very important Prakarana. It is like the jewel in the crown of Sri Vachanabhushanam. This Prakarana talks about how one should take one's Acharya as the Upaya, or Acharya as the means. One should surrender to their Acharya and depend on the Acharya for salvation. Acharya Abhimaname Uddharakam, it says. That is this last section. In fact, Manavala Mamuni describes this beautifully. Just like in Bhagavad Gita, the Charama Slokam, Sarvadharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Vrija, Aham Tva Sarva Papebhyo Mokshaishyami Masucha. That sloka, which is in the 18th chapter, the 66th sloka, is the essence of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Before that, Krishna talks about Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga. And finally, he talks about surrender to himself as the means. He says, surrender to me, don't worry, I will save you, he says. Now, Adhikari, a person who is desiring of moksha, if he listens to Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga and Bhakti Yoga, it is quite natural for them to feel, if I am doing this independently, will I succeed in them? And to remove that fear, Lord Krishna says, Ma Sucha, don't worry, surrender, Mamekam Sharanam Raja, surrender to me, I will take care of you. Sarva Papebhya Mokshaishyami, he says. Similarly, in Sri Vachanabhushanam, which talks about Siddhopaya, which talks about Lord Sriman Narayana throughout, it is quite natural for us to think about the Lord's independence, the Lord's Swatantriya, and wonder whether He will save us because He can do anything and we are so worthless because we have done so much sins and we continue to do so much sins. To give confidence to us, this Charama Parva says, do not worry about that. Take your Acharya as everything, Acharya as the means, surrender to your Acharya, he will take care of you. Similar to Lord Krishna saying, surrender to me, I will take care of you, don't worry about anything else. Here, Sri Vachana Bhushanam says, surrender to your Acharya, he will take care of you, don't worry about it. So, this Charama Parva Nishta is in some sense equivalent to the Charama Sloka of Bhagavad Gita. That is what Manavala Mahamuni says. So, this is the first way in which the concepts taught in Sri Vachana Bhushanam are categorized into 6 portions and 6 concepts. This is what is told to us in the Taniyan to Sri Vachana Bhushanam. The 2 Taniyans, one Samskrita Taniyan and one Tamil Taniyan, the first Tamil Taniyan for Sri Vachana Bhushanam, concerning the contents of Sri Vachana Bhushanam, talks about that. Purushakara Vaibhavam cha sadhanasya gauravam tadadhikari krityam asya sadgurupasevanam haridaya mahaitukim gurorupayatanchayo vachana bhushane avadat jagadgurum tamashraye. So it says, I surrender to the feet of the Jagat Guru, Pulle Lokacharya, who in Vachana Bhushane avadat, gave us these concepts. What are those concepts that are said in the first 3 lines? Purushakara Vaibhavam. Cha, of course, is and Purushakara Vaibhavam. Sadhanasya Gauravam. It is the greatness of the means of the Upaya. Tad Adhikari Krityam. The things that one who desires to follow this path and who has surrendered to Lord Sriman Narayana and considered Lord Sriman Narayana to be the means, what should he do? Asya Sadgurupa Sevanam. What are the services that one has to do to his Acharya by a person who is the Adhikari? Haridayam Ahaitukim. Ahaitukim, basically the costless mercy of the Daya of Hari, costless mercy of Lord Sriman Narayana, and Guru Upayatanchayo, which is Guroho Upayatam, the Upaya considering their Acharya themselves as the Upaya. These are the 6 concepts that we saw previously. This same thing is said in the first Taniyan of Sri Vachana Bhushanam, of the 2 Tamil Taniyans that contain the contents of Sri Vachana Bhushanam in the Tamil language. Peru Tarivikkumaval Tan Perumai, Aru, Peruvan Murai, Avan Kuru Guruvai Panuval, Kolvadilayagiya Kulirndavarul Tan, Maril Narpuhal Kuruvin Vanmai, Odelam Vachana Bhudanamathil Thera Namakkarul Mudumbai Irevan Kadalgal Seran Manane. So it talks about the 6 concepts that are being taught. Peru Tarivikkumaval Tan Perumai, Aru, Peruvan Murai, Avan Kuru Guruvai Panuval, Kolvadilayagiya Kulirndavarul Tan, Maril Puhal Narguruvin Vanmai. These are the same 6 concepts we saw before. And this Taniyan basically says, O mind, go and reach the lotus feet of Pulle Lokacharya, who gave us these meanings in Sri Vachana Bhushanam. Now let us look at the second categorization, second type of categorization of the contents of Sri Vachana Bhushanam. It is slightly different, not radically different. It just takes a little bit more detail in some of the sections, and you will see that as we go through. So in this categorization, 9 meanings in 9 sections. The first section is the same. Purushakara Vaibhavam is the same, in similar to the previous categorization. After this, it is Upaya Prakaranam. This talks about the surrender, the greatness of Prapatti, and the rules, the lack of rules in terms of a definite place or a definite time to do surrender and so on. Here, it subsections the Upaya Prakaranam that was there in the previous categorization into a little bit more detail. Now the third section here is Upayantara Dosha Prakaranam. It talks about the doshas or the negative things of considering other things as upayas other than Lord Sriman Narayana himself. It says that. After this, it is similar to the previous one where it talks about the Vaibhava, the greatness of the Siddhopaya Nishtas, of the people who take Lord Sriman Narayana himself as the means. Then the fifth section in this categorization is Prapanna Dinacharya. How should a person who has surrendered behave every day? What should he or she do every day? What should be in their mind? What should they give up? What should they desire? How should they live their life? The sixth section is Sadacharya Lakshanam, the Lakshana or the characteristics of a great and true Acharya. After that, it talks about Satshishya Lakshana, the categories, the characteristics and the qualifications and the behavior of a Sishya, of a true disciple. Then the eighth section is Bhagavan Nirhetuka Kripa, which is the costless mercy of Lord Sriman Narayana. And the last section is the same as the previous one, where it talks about Charamopaya Nishta, which is considering the Acharya himself as the means to everything and surrendering to Acharya. And this is what is being said in the second Tamil Taniyan, that is related to the contents of Sri Vachana Bhushanam. Thirumaamahalthan Seerarul Etramum, Thirumal Thiruvadi Servadi Nanmayum, அவ்வழி ஒழிந்தன அனைத்தின் புன்மையும் மெய்வழி ஊன்னிய மிக்கோர் பெருமையும் ஆரணம் வல்லவர் அமரு நன்னெறியையும் நாரணந்தாள் தரு நற்குரு நீதியும் சோதி வானருள் தூய மாகுருவின் பாத மாமலர் பணிபவர் தன்மையும் தீதில் வானவர் தேவன் உயிர்களை ஏதுமின்னி எடுக்கும்படியையும் மன்னிய இன்பமும் மாகதியும் குருவென்னு நிலை பெறும் இன்பொருள் தன்னையும் அசைவிலா வேதம் அதனுள் அனைத்தையும் வசனமூழ வழியால் மறையவர் சிகாமணிவன் புகழ் முடும்பை இறைவன் என்கோன் ஏர் உலகாரியன் தேன்மலர் சேவடி சிந்தை செய்பவர் மாநிலத்தில் இன்பமெய்தி வாழ்பவரே. So it basically says people who are doing dhyana on the lotus feet of Pullelokacharya, who gave us all these meanings that are the essence of the entire body of Vedic literature, will attain great happiness, is what this Taniyan says. And the first part of this Taniyan contains the Tamil descriptions of the 9 concepts that we recently saw. After this, Manavala Mamunigal talks in detail about how Sri Vachana Bhushanam also contains the Dvayartha, the meaning of the Dvaya Mantram, and of course the Charama Slokam and Tirumantram as well. That we will not see in this series. That is a much more detailed Anubhava that one can have once we develop interest in Sri Vachana Bhushanam and then go for Kalakshepam. So this ends the introduction to Sri Vachana Bhushanam or the Avatarikai, and we will start looking at the sutras and the Vyakhyana and the meanings of the Vyakhyana of the sutras of Sri Vachana Bhushanam starting tomorrow. Arvar Thiruvadigalai Sharanam, Emberumanar Thiruvadigalai Sharanam, Pullailokacharyar Thiruvadigalai Sharanam, Jiyar Thiruvadigalai Sharanam.
Asmad Gurubhyo Namaha, Asmad Paramagurubhyo Namaha, Asmad Sarva Gurubhyo Namaha. So today we actually start the Sri Vachana Bhushanam by Pullailokacarya proper with the first sutra or the first Churnika, and the explanation is going to be given to us.
Arvar Thiruvadigalai Sharanam, Emberumanar Thiruvadigalai Sharanam, Pullailokacharyar Thiruvadigalai Sharanam, Jiyar Thiruvadigalai Sharanam. Sri Vachana Bhushanam, first Sutram. Vedartham Arudidivadu Smruti Itihasa Puranangalale. This is the Sutram. The direct meaning for this sutra is as follows. The meanings of the Vedas, the essence of the Vedas, can be firmly and correctly determined only through the Smritis, Itihasas and Puranas. That is the first sutra. Now let us see the summary of the explanation given by Manavala Mamunigal for this sutra. A person who desires to seek the truth, to determine the truth through proper and valid sources of information is known as Pramata. Such a person, he will determine the truth, that which is to be known, the prameyam, only through valid and correct sources of information. Such valid and correct sources of information is called pramana. Pramana is a source that is valid source of knowledge. Only through use of proper pramana can somebody determine the prameyam. Pullalokacharya is a Parama Vaidika, which means he has supreme belief and faith and understanding of the Vedas and the accessories to the Vedas. And of course, he follows the prescriptions in them perfectly. And hence, he starts this Grantha using the word Vedartham to indicate to us that whatever he teaches us in this Grantha of Srivachana Bhushanam is only meanings that are shown in the Vedas and not things that are shown outside of the Vedic literature. Now, what is special about the Vedas? We will look into it briefly. There are multiple valid sources of information. For example, Pratyaksha is one. Pratyaksha means something that we can sense using our senses. Using our eyes, we see, let's say, a chair that is in front of us. Assuming our eyesight is not faulty because of some disease, this is a valid source of information. We saw a chair, so a chair exists there. Similarly, there are other things like Anumana. Anumana is inference. Agama is one. Upamana is comparison. Like this, there are multiple valid sources of information. But for things that cannot be reasoned or that cannot be understood through our senses, no matter what sense it is, the only way in which we can understand them is through the valid source, that is Vedas. So for Atindriya Vishayas, for things that are beyond our senses, the only valid source of information, source of knowledge is the Shastras. Shastras is basically the Vedas and the associated literature associated with the Vedas. The Vedas have a speciality that they are Swata Pramanya. They are valid sources of information by themselves. We don't need a corroborating source to tell us that the Vedas are indeed the right source of information. And hence the Vedas occupy a very important place. Vedas also have the quality of being Apaurushaya and Nitya. Apaurushaya means not written or composed by a single person. If a person composes something, it is possible that a few defects may occur. The four important possible defects are given to us as Brahma, Vipralamba, Pramada and Asakti. Brahma means illusion. Creating an illusion to the person who is listening by using sweet words and teaching them incorrect things, not the right things. Creating an illusion basically is Brahma. Vipralamba is the intent of the person who is writing a work to intentionally mislead or convey the wrong information. So intention itself is incorrect here. So the work written by such a person will obviously be incorrect and useless. Pramada basically is carelessness. Due to carelessness, a person may not be able to convey things clearly, or they keep using words but they don't have an end point in terms of a clear determination, or many other defects can occur due to carelessness of the person writing a work. And Ashakti basically is lacking the capability of understanding the truth, or lacking the capability of the ability to convey the truth in words that is meaningful and that is clear to the listener or the learner. So these are the four types of defects that can happen if a work is written by a person. So for somebody to write something means one of these defects may arise. But Vedas don't have these because they are Apaurushaya. They were not written by a single person. They were always existing also, that is Nitya. This is knowledge in the sound form that ever exists, always existed, exists now and will always exist in the future. And hence Vedas are very special. This is why our Acharyas and Puranas, everywhere you see, Vedas are held as a supreme source of knowledge that one has to have belief in. Now, the first word in the sutra is Vedartham, is the meanings of the Vedas, essence of the Vedas. What is Vedartham? There are two types of broad categories of knowledge that the Vedas give us. They basically are in the Purva Bhaga or the Karma Kanda, and the Uttara Bhaga or the Jnana Kanda. The Purva Bhaga, the Vedas, the Rig Veda, Ajurveda, Atharvana Veda, and Sama Veda that we know, they are basically manuals that prescribe how to perform sacrifices, yajnas, how to live, how to do certain procedures, many of them. They basically teach us to do a lot of things and the methods to do a lot of things. So this is karma. The Uttara Bhaga or the Vedanta, the Upanishads as we know them today, they tell us the truth about the Supreme Being and the means to attain Supreme Being, the qualities of the Supreme Being, the nature of the Supreme Being, and what we should do to attain the Supreme Being, and what happens if we attain the Supreme Being. The Karma Kanda is basically the Aradhana Rupa. It is the means of worship of the Supreme Being who is shown to us in the Jnana Kanda. Now one question arises. For Sri Vaishnavas, everything that we do is only as Aradhana to Lord Sriman Narayana. The Vedas prescribe multiple things, multiple yajnas, multiple homas, where the person that the offering is given to could be Indra or could be Agni or Varuna or somebody like that. Then how does that become a means of worship of the Supreme Being? Here we can take some words, some lines from the Veda literature itself. Sa Atma Anga Anyanya Devata Aha. Basically says that all the devatas are different parts of the body of the Supreme Being. So any oblation or any offering that is given to the devatas also go to the Supreme Being. Of course, Bhagavan Krishna tells in Bhagavad Gita the same thing. Hence, whatever is given in the Karma Kanda is a means of worship of the Supreme Being. The Vedas tell us what the things are to be done, what is to be known, and what are the things to be given up in order to follow the right path. The Karma Kanda or the methods prescribed in the Purva Bhagam of the Vedas, they act as different things for different people. For people who desire material benefit, it is a method for them to get material benefit. So if you want money, there are means prescribed to conduct some yajna or the other in order to gain material wealth. For mumukshus who desire release from samsara, for bhakti, people who follow bhakti nishtha, this becomes a anga for their upasana. This becomes an accessory for their practice, for their upasana. For people who have surrendered to Lord Sriman Narayana, that is Sri Vaishnavas, like most of us, it takes the form of kainkarya, it takes the form of service to Lord Sriman Narayana. So the karma has to be done, but the way it appears to different people is according to who they are, whether they are a bubukshu or a mumukshu or a prapanna. The Brahma Kanda or the Upanishads, the Vedanta, it teaches a lot about the nature of the Supreme Being, teaches us about the forms of the Supreme Being, of the wonderful auspicious qualities that the Supreme Being has, the guna, and vibhuti, the entire universe that actually is part of the Supreme Being. It teaches about that also. We can understand many things from the Upanishads, from the Brahma Kanda. We can understand that the servitude to the Supreme Being, attaining the Supreme Being, that is a purushartha, or that is a goal to be achieved. We can understand the means to achieve that goal. We can understand the essential nature of other things that are not a goal that is directly the Supreme Being, or means to that are not directly dependent on the Supreme Being as incorrect things, and then we can understand that they are to be given away. Like this, many things can be understood from the Brahma Kanda as well. So this Vedartham, Vedas give us two categories of knowledge, which is Karma Kanda and the Jnana Kanda, gives us the knowledge about things to be done, and gives us the knowledge about the Supreme Being and how to attain the Supreme Being. Now, Arudhi iduvadu, how does one determine clearly without any mistake? It is very difficult for somebody, some normal person, to understand the entire body of the Veda and the Vedanta and to come to a clear understanding. Because the Vedas have innumerable recensions or shakas or branches. Samaveda alone is supposed to have 1,000 shakas or 1,000 branches. Rigveda has many, Yajurveda has many, like that. The same procedure, let's say Jyotishtoma, could have been referred in slightly different ways in the different shakas. So one has to truly understand the nature of something, understand the different ways in which it is referred to in the different shakas, and then take a meaning such that none of the shakas contradict the meaning that one takes. That is very hard to do. Similarly, in the Upanishads, there are so many Upanishads, and different things are expressed slightly differently in the different Upanishads. And in fact, sometimes it even seems to us that what is said in one Upanishad Vakya is contradicted directly by a statement in some other Upanishad, or even in a different part of the same Upanishad. Now here also, one has to truly understand what is being said in the different Upanishads, and the same Vakya could appear differently in different Upanishads, and do Samanvaya and understand it in such a way that it is not contradicted in any other place. So this is very hard to do, and this can be done only by rishis who are medhavis and who have Bhagavad Kripa. It is not possible for us to do this. This is what Manavaka Mamundigal is saying in the commentary. I am just repeating the summary of the commentary. Hence, the only way to determine the true meaning, the right meaning, the proper meaning, is through the Upabrahmanas or the accessories. So, Vedartham arudiduvadu smriti itihasa puranangalale. Through what? Through smritis, itihasas and puranas, only one has to determine the true meaning of the arthas of the Veda. Smritis basically are the Dharma Shastras. Manusmriti, Yajnavalkya Smriti, Harita Smriti, like that there are many Smritis. These are code of conduct that is prescribed for human beings depending on their station in life, for brahmacharis, for grihasthas, for sannyasis and so on. Itihasas, of course, are the history that is being given to us, primarily Sri Ramayana and Mahabharata. And the Puranas basically are Brahma Purana, Padma Purana, Vishnu Purana and so on. The Puranic literature tell us about the creation of the universes, the key leaders, the key paramparas that ruled, the key manus that were established and so on. Without taking the help of the Upabrahmanas and without understanding the Vedartha through them, if one tries to understand the meanings of the Vedas through their own intellect, Swabuddhi, then it is certain that they will understand only the wrong meaning or the incorrect meaning. In fact, they may understand the meaning in a dangerously wrong way and some harm may come to them. Vipratipatti. Hence, one should not do that. One should understand the meanings of the Vedas only through the Smriti, Itihasas and Puranas. Because this is the first sutra in Sri Vachana Bhushanam, and Pillai starts with this sutra, it is to be understood clearly that whatever meanings he is saying from Purushakara Vaibhavam all the way up to the Acharya Abhimanam, whatever meanings that he has given as Vedarthas, he has determined through the teachings that he had from his Guru Parampara that the meanings are established through the Upabrahmanas only, through the Smriti, Itihasas and Puranas. And we can see that while we enjoy Sri Vachana Bhushanam, we will see at many places where the meanings are directly taken from or understood from different happenings or different words and different sentences in the Smriti, Itihasas and Puranas. So, through this sutra, the first sutra of Sri Vachana Bhushanam, Pillai Lokacharya very clearly establishes and teaches us that of all the sources of knowledge, Vedas are the supreme sources of knowledge, And to understand the true meanings of Vedas, one has to understand the Smriti, Itihasas and Puranas, and through that only one has to determine the meanings of the Vedas. That is what Pillai Lokacharya says in the first sutra. From tomorrow, we will see the next sutra. Alvar Emberumanar Jiyar Thiruvadigaleye Sharanam. Alvar Thiruvadigaleye Sharanam. Emberumanar Thiruvadigaleye Sharanam. Pillai Lokacharya Thiruvadigaleye Sharanam. Jiyar Thiruvadigaleye Sharanam. Sri Vachana Bhushanam, second sutra. ஸ்மிருதியாலே பூர்வபாகத்தில் அர்த்தம் அறுதியிடக் கடவது, மற்ற இரண்டாலும் உத்தரபாகத்தில் அர்த்தம் அறுதியிடக் கடவது. The literal translation of the sutra is as follows. The true meanings of the Purvabhaga of the Vedas, the Karma Kanda, can be firmly established through the use of Smritis. The true meaning and essence of the Uttarabhaga or the Vedanta portion of the Vedas can be firmly established using the other two. The other two basically is Itihasas and Puranas. Because in the first sutra, Pillai Lokacharya says, Vedartham arudiduvadu smruti itihasa puranangalale. So this sutra basically says, using smriti, one can understand the true meaning and essence of the Karma Kanda, and using Itihasa and Puranas, one can firmly establish the true meanings and essence of the Vedanta portion. Now let us look into the summary of the commentary of Madavala Mamunigal on this sutra. So after the first sutram, Vedartham arudiduvadu smriti itihasa puranangalale, that we can establish the meanings of the Vedas using smriti, itihasa and Puranas, it is natural for the question to occur. There are three things that are mentioned here, smriti, itihasa and Purana. So, using all three, can we understand the meanings of both parts of the Vedas? Or should we understand some portions of the Vedas using some of these three and other portions using the other portion of the three? And that is what is being answered here. The Vedas, as we saw in the previous lecture, are considered to be of two parts. The Karma Kanda and Jnana Kanda, or Karma Kanda and the Brahma Kanda. Karma Kanda talking about methods and procedures of worship, yajnas and so on. And Jnana Kanda or Brahma Kanda teaching us about the Supreme Being, the qualities of the Supreme Being and the means to achieve the Supreme Being. Similarly, the Upabrahmanas, the Smriti, Itihasa and Puranas, due to the subject or the concepts that they bring forth, that they explain in detail, they also have differences. The Smritis, like Manusmriti, Yajnavalkya Smriti and other Smritis, they are the ones that actually explain the concepts of the Karma Kanda in more succinct way and in an understandable way. And the Itihasas and the Puranas talk mostly about the qualities of Supreme Being and how to attain the Supreme Being and the works of the Supreme Being, the universe that is created by the Supreme Being, and hence Itihasas and Puranas are used to understand more about the Vedanta portion, the Jnana Kanda or the Brahma Kanda. Now, what do the Smritis teach us? The Smritis teach us about Achara, how to be pure, like Shaucham, how to take bath, when to take bath, where to take bath, the duties that one must perform every day, depending on the station of life that they are in, as a brahmachari, or a grahastha, or so on. So it talks to us about achara. It talks about vyavahara, how to conduct life, how to give dhanam. Like that, it teaches us how to live life. And it teaches us about prayaschitta. Some sin is committed. What is the prayaschitta to be done so that the ill effects of committing that sin are minimized? Chandrayana, like that, there are multiple procedures that are being told to us. Since the Smritis talk about these things, they basically are explaining the Karma Kanda, the methods and procedures in much more detail. And Itihasa Puranas, of course, we saw that they talk mainly about Bhagavat Swarupa Rupa Guna Vibhuti, and hence that is used to understand more about the Jnana Kanda or the Vedanta. Now in this sutra, Pillai Lokacharya uses the word Arudi Ida Kadavadu, firmly established, should be firmly established using the Smriti or the Itihasa Puranas. What does that mean? It is impossible for somebody to learn all the branches of the Vedas, for instance. Yesterday, we saw that the Vedas have numerous branches. Samaveda alone has 1,000 branches. Given that it is not possible for somebody to master all the branches and understand the true purport of all those things, one has to resort to the Smriti. The Smritis are such that they contain the essence and the meanings of all the branches. One can understand the true meaning even of the branches that one hasn't studied, because one can take the guidance of the Smriti. Hence, it is very important. That is why, using that, one can firmly establish the true meanings and the essence that is taught to us in the Vedas using Smritis. Similarly for Itihasas and Puranas. Do the Smritis talk 100% only about the methods and procedures? The answer is no. In some places in the Smritis, they do talk about the Supreme Being, but they are secondary in nature. The reason why they talk about Supreme Being is, while describing a procedure to be performed, it talks about the recipient of that procedure. It talks about who we are worshipping in the context of the worship or in the context of that method and procedure. And hence, the primary purpose of the Smritis is to talk about karma and to remind us that these karmas are to be done in the service of the Supreme Being. Some things about Supreme Being is mentioned. Similarly, in the Itihasas and Puranas, sometimes some procedures are mentioned, some yajnas are mentioned, and that is primarily mentioned in order to remind us that they are accessories to worship or upasana of the Supreme Being. Talking about Supreme Being is the primary purpose of the Itihasas and Puranas, and in some places, some methods of worship or some yajnas or something is mentioned, again to remind us that these are all accessories to the upasana or the methods that we adopt to reach the Supreme Being. So the second sutra basically gives a little bit more information to us about how to truly establish the meanings of the two parts of the Veda. The Karma Kanda meanings can be established firmly through the use of the Smritis, and the Brahma Kanda or Jnana Kanda portion can be understood firmly by using Itihasas and Puranas. Now we go to the third sutram. Sri Vachana Bhushanam, the third sutram. Iva irandilum vaittukkondu Itihasam Prabalam. Among these two, the Itihasa is higher, or Itihasa has a higher place, occupies a higher place. That is the literal meaning of this sutram. So after the second sutram, it is quite natural to ask the question. It is mentioned in the second sutram that the meanings of the Upanishads or the Vedanta can be understood better by referring to or by following Itihasas and Puranas. So there are two things. So it is a natural question for people to occur, which is higher among the two. Is Itihasa more superior or is Purana more superior? This sutra answers that. It says that Itihasa occupies a higher place. And Manavada Mamuni explains that in his Vyakhyanam. We will see that in a second. Of these two, Puranas and Itihasas, the Itihasas occupy a higher place. Why? Because of three qualities, the three qualities that the Itihasas have over the Puranas. They are Parigrahatishayam, Madhyastata and Karturaptatamatvam. Parigrahatishayam is a technical word in Sanskrit, of course. This basically means adoption by accepted people or adoption by learned people. This basically means that the Itihasas have been adopted by other things or other people that we respect. How? We will see that in a second. So there are some Puranas, in this case Skanda Purana, that talks about Ramayana. And this sloka many of us know. It is a very common sloka, very famous sloka also. But this is part of the Skanda Purana. Veda Vedye Pare Pumsi Jate Dasharathatmaje Veda Pracetasadaasit Sakshad Ramayanatmana. Veda Vedye Pare Pumsi Jate Dasharathatmaje. The Supreme Being, Narayana, who is known by the Vedas, who is learnt through the Vedas, when he was born as the son of Dasharatha, the Vedas also came here. How? Prachetasad asit. Prachetas is the father of Valmiki. Prachetas is the name for Valmiki. So from Valmiki, the Vedas came from Valmiki in the form of Ramayana, Sakshat Ramayana Atmana, in the form of Ramayana. So here we see a Purana talking highly about the Itihasa, in this case Ramayana. Similarly, there are other Puranas that talk about Ramayana and other Puranas that talk about Mahabharata also. For example, there is a shloka that is quoted by Manavala Mamuni, Mati Manthanam Avidya Yenasau Shrutisagarat Jagadvitaya Janito Mahabharata Chandramaha. So he says here, where Vedavyasa, who churned the Samudra of Vedas, and for the benefit of the universe, of people in the universe, he brought out the Chandra or the cool moon that is in the form of Mahabharata. This is again coming from some other Puranam. Like this, there are multiple quotes. So, the quality of Parigrahatishayam is there for the Itihasas. Puranas themselves accept them, adopt them, and talk about them. So, that is one reason why Itihasas occupy higher place than the Puranas. The other two reasons, let's look at the second reason. The second reason is called Madhyasthatha. It is neutrality. So here again one shloka is quoted by Manavala Mamunihal. Yasmin kalpetu yat proktam puranam brahmana pura tasya tasya tu mahatmyam tat swarupena varnyate. This is coming from one Puranam. And this basically means at every kalpa, in the beginning of every kalpa. So a kalpa is a beginning of a time period. So there is pralaya, and then in which the entire universe dissolves and things are formless, and then Lord Sriman Narayana creates the universe, and that's when the kalpa starts, and then the kalpa proceeds, another pralaya comes, and when everything dissolves, and then a kalpa again starts. We are, for example, in the time period known as the Shvetavaraha kalpa. So in the beginning of every kalpa, what Lord Sriman Narayana does is he preserves the Vedas through the pralaya, and then he gives it to the Chaturmukha Brahma. He appoints a Brahma and he gives it to the Chaturmukha Brahma. Vedas basically are the manual, right, or the rule book for Brahma to follow while creating the universe and administering the universe. Similarly, at the beginning of every kalpa, Brahma also composes, or Brahma also brings out the Puranas. Brings out probably is a better word. He brings out the Puranas. Now, Brahma is not a completely liberated person. Brahma also is a samsari like us, right? He also is subject to karmas and the influence of the three gunas, the sattva guna, rajoguna and tamoguna. So, depending on the day in which Brahma brings out a Purana, one of the three, rajoguna or sattva guna or tamoguna, may predominate the other two gunas. And then the Purana that he brings forth on that day is dominated by the deity which is associated with that quality. And the Purana also is dominated by words and things that are appropriate with the guna that predominates. So one can say that these types of things are having the partiality because of the predominance of a specific guna. That work, that Purana has the taste of that guna, and hence it is not perfect. Of course, we say that all the Vaishnava Puranas, whatever Brahma gave us, are those that are given to us when the Sattva guna dominates. The Itihasas do not have this defect. Their only aim, their true aim, is to really analyze and present to us the true meanings of Laukika and Vaidika, of the worldly life as well as the Vaidika life, so that we can understand them and follow them, use it to our benefit. So they do not have this sort of a defect, and hence the quality of Madhyasthatha is there for them. The third one is Karturapta Tamatvam. So this is Kartu is the one who wrote basically. It is the quality of the person who wrote the Itihasas to be people who are of great benefit to us. to be people who are able to give us good things to follow. A person who writes a work has to have at least two qualities, right? One is they should be able to understand the truth as it is, and the second thing is they should be able to express the truth as it is so other people can understand. So that quality is there for the Itihasas. Our Acharyas have said that. There was an Acharya called Uyakondar who was living in Ramanuja's time, not Uyakondar in the Guru Parampara, who wrote a work called Tattva Nirnaya, in which he has talked about this. Similarly, Parashara Bhattar, the great Parashara Bhattar, in his introduction to the commentary on Vishnu Sahasranama, talks highly about Mahabharata and what is contained in Mahabharata. So, it is clear to us that these Itihasas have been adopted by our Acharyas. They have been adopted by the Puranas also, and they have the quality of being neutral to ensure that they can give us the truth about the Laukika, the worldly life, as well as the Vaidika, the spiritual life. Hence, among the two, Itihasas and Puranas, Itihasas occupy a higher place than the Puranas. That is what is said in the third sutra. The fourth sutra of Sri Vachana Bhushanam. Attale adu murpattadu. Because of that, it is coming ahead, is the literal meaning. This basically refers to the relative positioning of the word Itihasa whenever Itihasa and Puranas are mentioned together. In the first sutra itself, we saw in Sri Vachana Bhushanam, Vedartham arudidivadu smruti itihasa puranangalale, where Itihasas came first, because of the higher position that they occupy, or Itihasas occupy as compared to the Puranas. Similarly, there are multiple places where they are mentioned. Itihasa Puranam Panchamam, for example, where Itihasa is mentioned ahead of Puranas. Itihasa Puranabhyam is a word that we find in other places also, where Itihasa is mentioned in front of Puranas. Manavada Mamunigal talks briefly about some grammatical technicalities in his Vyakhyanam about this, but I won't go into that in detail. What is important to understand is that because the Itihasas occupy a higher place than the Puranas, in many places where Itihasas and Puranas are mentioned together, Itihasas are mentioned ahead of Puranas. So, in the first four sutras of Sri Vachana Bhushanam, Pullelokacharya basically explains the following things. To really understand the true meaning of Vedas, one can understand them only through the use of Smritis, Itihasas and Puranas. Through the Smritis, one can understand the true meanings and essence of the Purva Bhaga or the Karma Kanda of the Vedas. Through the Itihasas and Puranas, one can truly understand the essence and meaning of the Vedanta. Among the Itihasas and Puranas, Itihasas occupy a higher place because of the reasons that we saw some time back, and hence wherever Itihasas and Puranas are mentioned together, Itihasas are mentioned ahead of Puranas. This is what he explains. This is telling us that whatever comes from now on, whatever meanings he explains, he has explained them through the use of whatever he taught us, through the use of Itihasas, Puranas and Smritis. And it also means that what he has told us is only the meaning that are present in the Vedas, Vedartham. We will start looking into the different concepts taught in Sri Vachana Bhushanam, starting in the next sutra, the fifth sutra, where Purushakara Vaibhavam starts. We will see that from tomorrow. Alvaram Perumanar Jiyar Tiruvadigalé Sharanam. Alvar Tiruvadigalé Sharanam, Emperumanar Tiruvadigalé Sharanam, Pillai Lokacharya Tiruvadigalé Sharanam, Jiyar Tiruvadigalé Sharanam. Sri Vachana Bhushanam, fifth sutram. Before we go into the fifth sutram, there is a small introduction that Manavada Mamunigal has given to the rest of Sri Vachana Bhushanam. Let us see that first. In the previous four sutras, Pullelokacharya talks about the Vedartha, the meanings that are present in the Vedas, how they are of two parts, the Purva Bhaga, the Karma Bhaga, and the Uttara Bhaga, the Brahma Bhaga or the Jnana Bhaga. And he talks about the Itihasas and Puranas and the Smritis. The reason why Pullelokacharya did this work, Srivachana Bhushanam, is in order to give clearly, in a concise and succinct manner, the deep meanings that are present in the Vedas and the body of Vedic literature, so that the people who follow Srivachana Bhushanam, understand it and follow it, can live a spiritual life, a productive spiritual life as prescribed by the Vedas. The meanings that are related to those are mainly present in the Uttarabhaga. The nature of the Supreme Being, the nature of the soul, the greatness of the Supreme Being, the path to the Supreme Being, what goal we should have, what upasanas are, what are the things that we should do. Like that, many things are told in the Uttarabhaga. So, Pullelokacharya dives deeply in the Uttarabhaga, gathers the most deepest meanings that are present, and presents it to us in a concise way in the rest of this Srivachana Bhushanam, so that we can understand the true essence of the Vedas without any doubt and without any misinterpretation. First, in the 5th Sutra, he talks about the greatness of the Itihasas. Remember, we learnt in the previous sutras that the meanings of the Uttarabhaga has to be understood through the use of Itihasas and Puranas, and Itihasas occupy a higher place than Puranas. Hence, Pullelokacharya starts with the greatness of Itihasas and then uses that to convey the concepts that he wants to convey in subsequent sutras. So let us see the 5th Sutra. Itihasa Sreshtamana Shriramāyanatthāl Sira irundavaletram solluhirathu Mahabharatatthāl Thūdupona vanayattam solluhirathu. The literal meaning of this is, in the most superior Itihasa, Sri Ramayana, the greatness of the person who went to prison, who was in prison, is said. Through the Mahabharata, the greatness of the person who went as a messenger to deliver a message is being told. That is the literal meaning of this sutram. Now let us see what Manavala Mamunigal says in his commentary. First, it says, Itihasa Sreshtamana Sri Ramayanathal. Through the superior Itihasa Ramayana, then Sirairundavaletram Solluhirathu. Now, Manavala Mamunigal talks about why Sri Ramayana is a superior Itihasa, is a great Itihasa. He quotes many slokas. In Sri Ramayana itself, in Balakanda, many slokas are there that tell us about the greatness of Sri Ramayana. First, let's see the greatness of Valmiki. So, in Balakanda, there is a sloka. Valmikaye Maharishaye Sandidesha Asanam Tataha Brahmana Samanujñātaha Soapi Upavishadasane. So, Brahma, who was talking to Valmiki, he was sitting on a seat. He sat on a seat. He offered a seat to Valmiki, and Valmiki sat on that seat. And after that, they had a discussion. We will see a little bit more in subsequent minutes. So, Valmiki was somebody who was honored by Brahma by being offered a seat to sit. It did not happen in old days that great people like Brahma just offered a seat to sit for everyone. He did that to Valmiki. And hence, Valmiki is a very blessed and great person. Hence, the work written by him is a great work. Similarly, Brahma himself blesses Valmiki in multiple shlokas. For example, he says, Nate vag anruta kavye kachidatra bhavishyati. He says, in the kavya that you are going to write, that you will write, there will be no lies. It will always be truth. Anrutam, lies will not even occur in the kavya that you write. So that is a blessing. This means that Ramayana is fully the truth. There is no untruth in Ramayana. Similarly, in other shlokas, which I won't go into detail, I will just tell the meaning. Brahma says that till the time the mountains and rivers are there, Ramayana will be there. And Ramayana will be there not just in the Bhuloka on the earth, but it also will be in all the upper lokas and all the lower lokas. And in fact, he even says it will be in my loka also. He says Mallokeshu, he says even in my loka it will be there. So, Ramayana is accepted, it is adopted in all the lokas, not just this loka. And hence, Ramayana is great. We also saw this shloka yesterday. Vedavedye pare pumsi jate dasaratatmaje veda prachedasadasit sakshat ramayanatmana. So Vedavedye pare pumsi jate dasaratatmaje, the person who is to be known through all the Vedas, he came as the son of Dasaratha. He was born as the son of Dasaratha. The Vedas, which teaches about him, also came to earth during that time through Prachetas, through Valmiki. These are all quotes, these are all evidences that Manavala Mamunigal quotes to tell us that Ramayana is a great work. It is a very superior work. It is a great itihasa. So that is the first part. Itihasa Sreshtamana Ramayanattal. Now, Sirairundavaletram, the greatness of the person who went to jail or who went to prison is being said. Of course, it refers to Sita, who was present in Ashoka Vana or Ashoka Vatika or Ashoka Vana as a prisoner of Ravana. Why was not the word Lakshmi or Sita or Mahalakshmi used here? Instead, the person who went to prison is being used. That is the question that comes. And Manavala Mamunigal says it is because Pillai Lokacharya intends to show a light to teach us about this great and wonderful quality of Mahalakshmi, that is compassion, Daya. She is full of compassion. She went to prison in order to save all the Rakshasis there who were present under the command of Ravana, who were in the Ashoka Vatika along with her to control her. She took compassion on them and she wanted to save them, and hence she went to prison voluntarily as she was overcome with compassion towards them. This is very similar to a mother who jumps into a well to save a child who has just fallen there. A small child, let's say 1 or 2 year old, falls into a well. A mother will immediately jump into the well to try to save the child, isn't it? Mahalakshmi is the mother for all of us. She has kindness for all of us. Every one of us has a inalienable relationship with Mahalakshmi. She is our mother, everyone's mother. And she has utmost compassion towards us. So she, using that compassion, she jumps here. She came here in order to save all these people who were under the control of Ravana, who were in Ashokavana. Nammalvar beautifully says in one of the pasurams in Tiruvayumozhi, Tanichirayil Vilaputta Kilimozhiyal Karanama Kilaradakkan Nagaraditta. After that he says a few more things. He specifically refers to Sita as Tanichirayil Vilaputta Kilimozhiyal, the person with sweet words who was present alone in the prison. He refers her that way. Pillai Lokacharya, of course, is a great follower of the Alvars, and Alvars show us the path, and hence he follows Nammalvar and he uses the same concept here. Sirairundavaletram. That is why he is saying that. Sita did not go to jail, to prison, out of some bad deed she did or because of her karma. She went there because she wanted to save those people. She did it for the benefit of others, and hence this adds to her greatness. People who think that Sita went to prison because of the power of Ravana, because he forced her to be there, Manavala Mamunigal says, are people who don't know the true power of Sita. Because when Hanuman's tail was set on fire, Sita blessed, saying Shito Bhava, so that Hanuman did not feel the heat. He felt cool, he felt coolness. Using that same power, she could have said Nashto Bhava to Ravana. She could have said, let this guy be destroyed, or let destruction come upon him, and then he would have been destroyed. But she did not do that. She went there so that she can be with the people she wanted to save and save them. So that is the greatness of Sita. In Ramayanam, it is also said, Kavyam Ramayanam Kritsnam Sitayas Charitam Mahat. The entire Ramayana is the story of Sita, it is said. And hence, we can say that Ramayana is only a story about Sita. And Sita's greatness, one of the greatnesses of Sita, perhaps the greatest quality, is her going to prison to save all these people. And hence, Pillai Lokacharya says, Itihasa Shreshtamana Ramayanattal Sirairundavalettam Solluhirathu. Now, let us go to Mahabharata, the next sentence. Mahabharatattal Tudu Ponavanettam Solluhirathu. So, through the Mahabharata, the greatness of the person who went as a messenger is being told. Of course, we know who is this person, right? Krishna, who went as a messenger on behalf of the Pandavas to the court of Dhritarashtra, and where Duryodhana and Bhishma and Drona were present, to try to do a compromise to avoid the war. So that is Krishna. So his greatness is being said here. Similar to what we saw in Ramayana, Manavala Mamuni follows the same style and tells us first about the greatness of Mahabharata. First, let's see who wrote Mahabharata. Mahabharata was composed by Sri Vedavyasa. Vedavyasa is considered to be an Avesha Avatara of Lord Vishnu himself, as an Amsha of Lord Vishnu himself. So he is great. There are multiple places where it is mentioned. Krishna Dvaipayanam Vyasam Vidhi Narayanam Prabhum Kohyanyo Bhuvi Maitreya Mahabharata Krit Bhavet. It is said in Vishnu Puranam. It says, you know this Krishna Dvaipayana, Vyasa, who is also known as Krishna Dvaipayana, you know him as Narayana himself. Who else could have written this great work Mahabharata on this earth? That is the meaning of this. There are other slokas also like that, where we learn that Krishna Dvaipayana is Sakshat Narayana himself. Hence, written by him, that work Mahabharata has to be a great work. That is the implication here. Vedavyasa also wanted to do good things for everyone. He also wrote the Brahma Sutras. He gave us the Brahma Sutras, which we use to understand the Upanishads. So Vedavyasa, he says in Mahabharata itself, he says, Vedan Adhyapayamasa Mahabharata Panchaman. He himself says that the Mahabharata is the fifth Veda. So it is a great work. So we should understand that it is a great work. Hence, similar to Sri Ramayana, Mahabharata also is an equal and strong pramanam, strong work that we should have faith in and that we should learn from. This is also accepted by our Acharyas. Naduvul Tiruvedi Pillai Bhattar has said that in one of his works. Bhattar, Sri Parashara Bhattar, in the introduction to Sri Sahasranama Bhashya, he says similar things. He says, Sri Ramayanavatu Mahabharatam Sharanam. He says that. So now in this great work of Mahabharata, instead of saying Sarveshwara or Krishna or whatever name we have for Krishna, Pillai Lokacharya uses the word messenger, the one who went to convey a message, the one who was a messenger. That is Tudu Ponavan. Tudu Ponavan Etram Sollugirathu. The greatness of the messenger is being told. Why is that? That is because Manavala Mamanigal says Pillai Lokacharya wants to show a light, shed a light, and teach us about the greatest quality that Lord Sriman Narayana has and Krishna has, that of Ashrita Paratantriya. Basically, he is the servant of his devotees. He does everything for his devotees. That is the greatness. That is the great quality that he has. In order to show that, Pillai Lokacharya uses the word, is what Manavala Mamanigal says. See, Krishna is the supreme being, Deva Deva, right? I mean, the greatness of him is unimaginable, limitless. On the other hand, being a messenger is a very lowly job because you don't have any independence. You have to convey a message from one person to another person. That can be done by anybody. The difference between the supreme being and the messenger is so much. But Krishna did not mind any one of those. He went as a messenger on behalf of his devotees, the Pandavas. On behalf of Arjuna and the other Pandavas who were his devotees, he went there. That is the greatness, that is the great quality that the Supreme Being has. He does things on behalf of his devotees. And this great quality is very important because for anyone to surrender, to go to the lotus feet of the Supreme Being, these kinds of qualities attract everyone towards him. Because such a Supreme Being is being so free, he is being so easy, and he does work on our behalf. That is the greatness of this quality of Lord Sriman Narayana. This same greatness, this guna is being enjoyed by Alvars also. In Periya Tirumozhi, Tirumangi Alvar quotes it in multiple places. Ennar Tudanan Evul Kadandane, he says. So he refers to Krishna as somebody who was the messenger. In other places also it is mentioned. Kudai Mannarade Nadanda Tuda. In further Tirumozhis in Periya Tirumozhi, Tirumangai uses that and refers to Krishna as the messenger. Again, Pillai Lokacharya refers to Krishna as messenger here only because our Alvars are referred to him. And Alvars, not just one Alvar, multiple Alvars. We saw that Nammalvar referred before, and we saw an example here of where Tirumangai Alvar is referring. So they all tell us the same thing, and Pillai Lokacharya is following their path by referring to Krishna in the same way they referred to Krishna due to the greatness of that quality of being a messenger to help his devotees. Going as a messenger because you have no other choice or because of karma is a lowly thing. But Krishna did not go that way. He went there because of his own desire to go in order to help his devotees. And hence, this is the cause that increases the greatness of Krishna. Similar to how various births that the Supreme Being takes adds to his luster. Sa Shreyan Bhavati Jayamanaha. Right? Every time he is born, right, he becomes even more and more resplendent. Right? The tejas increases, right? The Shreyas increases. Like that. Because he is doing that, he is taking birth for the sake of others. Similarly, here Krishna is doing the messenger job for the sake of others, and hence this also is something that causes more tejas, causes more greatness to Krishna. Manavala Mamunigal says people who think that Krishna went as a messenger because he was helpless or because going as a messenger is a lowly thing, that is, these are people who are the kings of people who don't know the real knowledge. Because great people like Nammalvar, who have perfect knowledge, who have the right mindset, they look at Krishna and then they even faint looking at his great qualities. Ettiram uralinodu inaindirundenge elive, in one Tiruvayamozhi it is said, in one Pasanam it is said. They look at these great qualities and then they even faint enjoying those great qualities. And hence, we should understand the greatness of those qualities. In order to teach us this greatness, Pillai Lokacharya uses the word Tudu Ponavan Etram and not Sarveswaran Etram or Krishna's Etram, Krishnanin Etram. He does not use those words. He uses the word messenger so that we understand the greatness of the Supreme Being who does work on behalf of his devotees. The entire Mahabharata, everywhere, Krishna's greatness only is said. In fact, in Mahabharata itself it is said, Narayana Katam Imam, this is the story of Narayana, it is said. And hence, in Mahabharata, the greatness of the person who went as messenger is said. That is the meaning of the second part of the sutra. So in this sutra, for both Itihasas, Ramayana and Mahabharata, Pillai Lokacharya tells us that these are great works. These are great pramanas that we should learn from. From the next sutra onwards, we will see the content of in these itihasas, some of the content of these itihasas. Alvar Embirumana Jiyar Tiruvadigalai Sharanam.
So that was actually Sutra 5 and Sutra 6. He describes it as 5 and the other half of 5, but it's Sutra 5 and Sutra 6. So does anybody have any questions or comments about Sutra 5 and Sutra 6?
Yeah, the Ramayana. There are many translations of the Ramayana, many versions of the Ramayana. And also there's a Tamil Ramayana.
Okay, yeah, in India, all around India, even in Indonesia and different places, the Ramayana has spread to many parts of the Hindu world. And it's been translated into different languages. So we have very famous Ramcharit Manas by Tulsidas in Hindi, the Kamba Ramayana by the poet Kamba in Tamil, and in each of those there's a Ramayana. However, what he's speaking about the Valmiki Ramayana. He's speaking about the original Valmiki Ramayana. So there's different versions, and like you said, there's different translations. Ultimately, the Ramayana is written. Valmiki Ramayana is written in Sanskrit. Yeah. There's also some other Sanskrit Ramayanas too, like Adhyatma Ramayana. And even in the Bhagavatam, there's a discussion about Ramayana. as there is
Yeah.
discussion about different avatars of the Lord. So Lord Rama is also described. So there's some discussion of Ramayana in the Puranas also, just like he mentioned a verse where, I believe from Vishnu Purana, where Parasura, who wrote Vishnu Purana, mentions about how the greatness of Ramayana. So the greatness of Ramayana, the greatness of Mahabharata are both spoken about in the Puranas. And there are some, this Adhyatma Ramayana, for instance, comes in a particular Purana. So it's another type. But the original, the point of the fifth sutra here is that the original Valmiki Ramayana is the more authoritative. The whole idea today is to explain pramanas, to explain where we get valid knowledge from, right? We get valid knowledge basically from different sources. So we have empirical knowledge through this, which we gain through the senses, right? Which is valid, right? We unless there's some illusion or something like that. But so for measuring, for weighing, for doing all those things, we use our senses. We don't give up using our senses. That's valid knowledge. Anumana or inference or logic, we see the smoke on a mountain. We think that there must be a fire there because we see the smoke. So that's just a logical inference. Sometimes these things are not useful when we're trying to find out about something beyond the material senses, beyond like God, or the Supreme, or the spiritual world, or something which is not measurable or understandable logically, right? Then we have to look at authoritative statement. So we have Pratyaksha Anumana Shabda. Shabda means authoritative statement. So this is the other type of method of getting valid knowledge. So that method, the statement comes, we know the statement, we've heard that the statements, authoritative statements, come from sadhus, from holy people, Vaishnavas, and gurus, acharyas, teachers, like that. But both the gurus and the sadhus, they're basing their statements on the Shastra, on the scriptures. So then that was in the original sutra. In the next sutras have described that there are different Shastras, there are different levels of proof. What is the greatest proof? The greatest proof, of course, is the Vedas, because they're unauthored. They don't have any problems. They don't have these problems of deception or what was he saying? Brahma Vipralipsa and Ashakti, and what was the fourth one? Anyway, they don't have those problems that occur sometimes when people author things. They make mistakes. So the point is, the Vedas are perfect, but the Vedas they're unlimited. It's impossible to read them all. And even if you read them all without the other scriptures to help you explain them, right? Or you won't come to the right conclusion probably. So the Shmitis, the Itihasas, and the Puranas, these other scriptures, help us to understand the eternal message of the Vedas. So this was the whole point. So then the question becomes, okay, that's fine. We can't study all the Vedas. We can't even study all the Upanishads or whatever. But so how to come to the best, what's the best scripture that gives us the best proof of certain things like that? So then they said, well, the Dharma Shastras, the Shmitis like Manusmriti and these things, they deal with Karmakanda and they deal with certain things. The Itihasas then there's Itihasas and Puranas. So the Itihasas and Puranas are better than the Shmitis. Out of the Itihasas and Puranas, the Itihasas are better than the Puranas. And he gave the reasons. You can check it. You can look it up again and watch it. So out of the Itihasas, means Ramayana and Mahabharata, out of these two, which is the best? So Ramayana is considered to be the best. And he gave the reasons. And so the reason is because it describes about Sita's intercession, her becoming a Purushakara, and interceding between God and the Rakshashis like this, and whereas the Mahabharata is about Krishna being a messenger to the court of the Kauravas on behalf of the Pandavas. So there are these reasonings that come about, and by that reasoning that we have a hierarchy of scriptures, a hierarchy of books that we go to for spiritual knowledge, right? So in case there's a discussion and somebody quotes something and somebody quotes another thing, the more important scripture is the Ramayana, then the Mahabharata, then the other Puranas, and the Sattvic Puranas over the other Puranas, right? Because there are Sattvic, Rajasic, and Tamasic Puranas. There are different types of Puranas. So, and then below them, even the Shritis, like Manu Shmiti and all these things. So he's given a hierarchy of scriptures. Not that you can just immediately answer every question by going to the scripture, which is not considered the greatest scripture, and giving some pronouncement. But you should look, and you should see, you should weigh differently the statements of different scriptures according to how great they are. And the Ramayana is considered the greatest, apart from the Vedas. Obviously, the Vedas are the greatest. But as we said, we can't study them all, and we need these other scriptures to help us to understand the Vedic scriptures. Very similar thing is described in Tattva-sandarbha by Jiva Goswami for the Gaudiyas. You can't study all the Vedas, so therefore you should study the Bhagavatam, he said. Namaskaram.
வாழி உலகாசிரியன் வாழியவன் மன்னுகுலம் வாழி முடும்ப என்னும் மாநகரம் வாழி மனம் சூழ்ந்த பேரின்ப மல்கு மிகு நல்லார் இனம் சூழ்ந்திருக்கும் இருப்பு வாழி திருவாய் மொழிப்பிள்ளை மாதகவால் வாழும் மணவாள மாமுனிவன் வாழியவன் மாறன் திருவாய் மொழிப்பொருளை மாநிலத்தோர் தேரும்படி உரைக்கும் சீர் செய்ய தாமரைத்தாளின வாழியே சேலவாழி திருநாபி வாழியே துய்ய மார்பும் புரிநூலும் வாழியே சுந்தரத் திருத்தோளினை வாழியே கையுமேந்திய முக்கோலும் வாழியே கருண பொங்கிய கண்ணின வாழியே பொய்யிலாத மணவாள மாமுனி புந்தி வாழி புகழ் வாழி வாழியே அடியாறுகள் வாழ அரங்கநகர் வாழ சடகோபன் தண்டமிழ் நூல் வாழ கடல் சூழ்ந்த மண்ணுலகம் வாழ மணவாள மாமுனியே இன்னுமொரு நூத்தாண்டிரும் ஸ்ரீமதே ரம்யஜா மாத்ரு முனீந்திராய மகாத்மனே ஸ்ரீரங்கவாசினே பூயாத் நித்யஸ்ரீர் நித்யமங்களம்.